Hello, my friends. Today, we're going to start a new classes about Noah commandment, and we will talk about the question why only 7 commandments compared to 613 of Israel. The material is also found printed in Noahide7commandment.com. You can find the material to read if you want. So why only 7 and not 613? So a few words about the new series of classes. I know that some of you have already attended my former class over the last 2 or 3 years. We covered all the 7 commandments, and nothing wrong in repeating it. In fact, the Torah learning is based on repetition and digestion. For instance, in the synagogue, we complete the entire book of Moses, reading it every Shabbat over the entire year, only to start next year fresh. And every cycle of every year, we discover new ideas, new things that we didn't pay attention before. So Torah learning is based on rereading, redigesting, because in fact, the wisdom of the Torah is so big, so great, that it's impossible for mankind mind to grasp all of that in just one reading. So the more you read, the more you attend the classes, the more you gain. Some of you I know that are fresh, never heard the class before. So I can tell you, prepare yourself to learn a new vocabulary, new terms that you are unfamiliar, like the name of God. And it will be maybe difficult to digest the first time, but as you read it, as you stay on the classes, it will get clearer and clearer. And I want to assure everyone here that the material I'm using is drawn from the Talmud, from the commentary, and from the Zohar, book of Zohar, and from the prayer book. And what I present here is mainstream Orthodox Judaism, I could say. So what are the 7 commandments? Where are they written? You don't find any list in the book of Genesis or in the book of Exodus of the 7 commandments of Noah as such. No one came down from the mountain in the book of Genesis holding tablets and said, oh, see, here are they described Noah's 7 commandments, number 1, number 2, number 3. And there's no such things. Yet, the commandment permeate the stories very thoroughly and very truly. You cannot understand the book of Genesis without this commandment in the back. I'll give you an example. When Adam and Eve were driven out of Eden because they violated some laws. What kind of law? They disobeyed God's order. And if she cohabited with the serpent and she was a married woman, she violated adultery. So without specifically saying it, they were chased out of Eden because, one, the denied God's will. That's sort of idolatry. And number two, she committed adultery. So you see, without being specific in a text, the commandments are looming behind the story. Now let's move on. On earth, the first thing they do, Cain kill Abel, which is a bloodshed, and he's punished for that. If there wouldn't be a commandment, he wouldn't be punished. So the fact that Cain was punished to exile and finally he paid for his life after 7 generations, as we will learn. So the fact that he was punished speaks for the existence of a commandment called bloodshed, which is now 3. We have idolatry, we have adultery, and now bloodshed. As we move on in the story, they come the story of Noah and his generation. And the flood came because of bloodshed and theft combination. So so again, if there would be a commandment, there wouldn't be a punishment. So the fact that they violated everything, including particularly bloodshed, number 3, and theft, number 4, they very treated very harshly by God, speaks for the existence of this commandment behind the story. Now God, the story moves on to Abraham, who is a kind of character, and he is excel in giving charity, and he fight against theft, and and then come Joseph, Jacob, and struggle for the truth and justice. So you see that the story moves on from one commandment to another. That's looming behind the scene. It's not written anywhere that those seen in the open, but it's behind the story. So if you sum up what kind of a commandment we are talking about in the book of Genesis, here they are. They are number 1, idolatry. Number 2, adultery, like in Eden. Bloodshed, Cain and Abel. And Noah, and theft, Noah and Abraham. Injustice, justice, civil order is like the story of Jacob. Blasphemy is the story of Joseph, you will see. And then come a commandment that was added by Noah, number 7, prohibition of eating a torn limb with the blood in it. So here are the 7 commandments that permeate the book of Genesis story. You cannot deny the existence of this commandment because they dictate the punishment and also the reward. Let's see. Abraham was rewarded because of being charitable. Noah was rewarded by Rainbow Covenant, by his fight against bloodshed. And Jacob was rewarded. So if there is a commandment, there is also punishment on one side and rewarding if you abide by them. That's self-understood. So nobody can claim that the rabbi invented the seven commandments out of the mind. They permeate the story, they dictate the shape of the book of Genesis. Let me ask now a question that is often raised. We know that Israel is obligated by 613 given at Sinai. Why Noah obligated only by 7? That's the question I put there at the headline of the class. Why only 7? Why such a disparity between Israel and Noahide? Many people ask that question. After all, we all believe in Moses. So why did such a disparity between Israel and Noahide? And another question that come out of that, why should Noahide relate to Noah rather than to Moses? We all believe in Moses. Why suddenly Noah? Now, the best answer for that I heard from Jack Sanders from Chattanooga, Tennessee, years ago, who Jack told me when we discussed the issue in one of the conventions. Jack said, of course, we all believe in Moses, Noahide and Israelite alike, but Moses is telling us, the children of Noah, to abide only by the commandment that Noah had observed. Wonderful answer. In other words, Moses is honoring Noah. He did not come to replace Noah, but rather to support Noah in the eyes of his children. And you see, all the false prophets in the world usually typically come and claim that they came to replace the older one, the previous one. From henceforth, everyone should listen to them only. This is true for instance, to Christianity and to Islam. They came to replace, you know what? Listen only to them. But Moses, who is the modest of all people, a true prophet, he said otherwise. He had no ego. And he said to all people, I came to restore, I want to restore the fame of Noah in the eyes of his children. I want all the children of Noah to abide by the commandment that Noah observed. Not that I am telling Israel to do, but commandment that Noah also told his people to do. So he didn't come to replace Noah, but to support Noah in the eyes of the nations, the children of Noah. So you can ask, if Noah is so important, why did he add any question? Why did the Torah add more commandment above Noah? If Noah is that important in the eyes of Moses. So the answer is, of course, it's 613 commandment of Sinai to Israel. But if you look closer to them, you see that the bulk of them, the majority of them, are between man and man, and they all can be traced directly to Noah's 7 commandments. They're all offshoot of Noah's 7 commandments, more detail. And they are all between man and man. Besides idolatry, that is also between man and God. So the bulk of Moses' commandment is still related to what Noah said too. So both Israel and Noahide should observe them. But the rest of them, the rest of the commandment that Moses told Israel, has nothing to do with Noah. Like all the commandments that pertain to the temple services, to the sacrifice, offering, to ritual purity, impurity, kosher food, holidays, the way we keep the Sabbath, all those commandments, many of them, they also constitute a major part of the 613. They are specific for Israel as a nation of priests, as a holy nation of priests. And as such, they have nothing to do, they don't relate to the children of Noah, because Noah did not talk about them. And Israel is appointed to be the leader, the priest of the congregation, which is Noahide nation. So unlike Christianity and unlike Islam, Judaism or the Torah does not want all nations to be convert to become Jewish. That's not the goal. The Torah doesn't want all the nations to be priests, because if everyone become priest, there is no meaning to the priesthood. There is a priest and there is a congregation. In fact, the whole purpose of the priest is to teach the congregation what's supposed to do. And so even they talk about the task of Israel to teach the nation. Look at Isaiah number 2, chapter number 2. Isaiah talk about the days that the mountain of God will be exalted above all mountains, and all the nation will flock to Jerusalem to learn, to see the Messiah, to pray. And what would the Messiah do? Teach the nation the 7th commandment. That's the only task of the Messiah to the nation, recognized by rabbinical view. Okay? We're not talking about any mystical changes in nature. According to the rabbinical mainstream Orthodox view, not the Kabbalistic, not the mystical Messiah, but the rabbinical Messiah, that is, the view is expressed in our prayers. He come to, according to chapter 2, Isaiah, teach all the nations 7 commandments. So Israel, even the Messiah, are appointed for that task. So you need a strong horse equipped with a lot of instructions and laws and to make it to strengthen his posture as a priest in order to give example to the congregation. That's why Israel is endowed with so many commandments, to establish our position in the eyes of the Torah, position as a teacher, as a priest for all nations. So don't ask who is more important, the congregation or the priest. One exists for the other, they're intertwined. A priest needs a congregation, and a congregation needs a priest. And so again, so why was Noah selected? Here is a cutoff. Why not any other patriarch from the book of Genesis that separate the nations from Israel? So Moses selected Noah as a cutting point between Israel and the nations. Why Noah? First, simple. Noah is the father for all of us. After the flood, he and his wife Naamah replaced Adam and Eve. So Noah and Naamah are our physical parents. We all descended of the three sons of Noah. It's proven today by genetic material that humanity can be split into three groups according to mitochondria, genetic mitochondria, three groups. One in Europe, one in Asia, and one in Africa, exactly like the Torah described, descending of the three sons of Noah, about 300 generations before. And so Noah is our physical father, but he's also our spiritual father, because humanity still live, today we live under the rainbow covenant, where God promised Noah that the flood will not return as long as his children will keep the faith and the seventh commandment. That's the meaning of the rainbow covenant, a promise from God not to return the flood as long as his children keep the rainbow covenant terms. And we will read the covenant, we'll study what it says, what are the terms. So the flood is not coming so soon because God promised Noah to do everything to postpone such a verdict. If we breach Noah's commandment, we breach the rainbow covenant, God will have no choice but to return the flood. Now, how come the number of commandments sprung up so fast from 6 to 613? How did the jump occur? In fact, that's the story of the book of Genesis. It tells you how it happened, and it happened gradually. Originally, Adam and Eve got 6 in Eden. Then on earth, Noah got the 7th commandment, not to eat blood and a limb from a torn animal. And then after Noah, Abraham got circumcision, the 8th. And after Abraham, Jacob got another prohibition to not to eat the sciatic nerve. That's Book of Genesis, climbing up from 6 to 7, 8, and 9. That's the Maimonides counting. So all of them were Noahide. Adam, Noah, Abraham, and Jacob. And the number climbed up from 6 to 7 to 8 and 9, ending with Jacob 9. Then in Book of Exodus, Israel got 10, the 10 commandments, the entire package. That's the evolution of the number of the commandment. And there is, of course, a story behind it. The story is that every time humanity failed drastically, and a flood would have come to, as predicted, to because of breaching of Noah rainbow covenant. God, in His mercy, sent us precious souls, the patriarch, to lift humanity from the mud, the sunken wagon, to lift it up, and to pull us back to Noah's faith. Noah was forgotten after the flood, and his children and grandchildren resorted back to idolatry and to committing all the terrible sin as before the flood almost. And the flood would have come had not Abraham came and then Jacob and Isaac trying to teach mankind the seven commandments. So each time it got worse, God sent another patriarch. First he sent Noah, then he sent Abraham, and then he sent Jacob. And each one was finally rewarded with another commandment to enforce its stance. If you get more commandment, you are more committed. And that's why Abraham got 8, one above Noah. And Jacob got 9, one above Abraham. And finally, Israel got 10 above Jacob. So every time you get more commandment, you are more committed. You become a stronger horse, so to speak. So humanity needed a strong horse in order to pull our wagon out of the mud, in order to save us from extinction. So that's the story behind the evolution of the commandment in the book of Genesis from 6 to 7 to 8 and 9. So remember, all started in Eden. Now we have to address the question, what's the purpose of giving them in Eden? Why did God give Adam and Eve the Eden, the sixth commandment? The answer is that God saw that Adam and Eve are driven out of Eden, and he knew that on earth they will need strong drives to be able to live on earth under the angel of death. We need here a sex drive. We need a drive to rule over. We need a drive to produce and wisdom. So he planted in us all these features. As he said in the book of Genesis, he blessed them, be fruitful and multiply. I mean, have a good sex life, good sex, stronger than all the animals. Rule over, have a good inclination to rule over and to progress and be able to kill and to protect yourself. And you need wisdom and so on. He gave us many features and imaginations. And all that is our tool, our blessing to help us live. They are a gift that help us to live successfully on earth. But God knew that those gifts, as precious as they are, can be turned to be a trap of sin. Sex drive can be a trap for adultery. For able to protect ourselves for killing, it can be, it can be a drive for war and killing and so on, and a drive to possess and to make ourselves a name is behind stealing and injustice and so on. So behind those behind those, so he gave us those laws to curtail our drives, to tame them. And so in order that we won't kill ourselves and we won't violate all the laws, and then be driven out from earth the same way that Adam and Eve were driven out of Eden. If once we have violated all the seven commandments, our fate will be like Adam and Eve in Eden. There will be no room for us to stay here. So that's the purpose of the sixth commandment. They address our psychological inclination that on one hand are important for us. They are gifts from God uh, for us to be able to thrive on this earth and to produce and to be important and so on. Without sex life, without sex drive, without the drive to rule over, nobody will be driven to do anything. Psychology will tell you that. So God gave us those blessings, strong inclination, but at the same time warning, be careful if you violate this by laws. If you follow a sex drive and commit adultery or kill your fellow man or wage war, you are going to destroy yourself. And besides, I'm going to destroy you. So the six commandments are given to accompany, so to speak, mankind on earth. And it's beautiful how the Torah describes it, and it was given just at the point where they were driven out of earth to earth. We will talk about it in due course. You see how it come out from the verses itself. The commandment also address our inner. There is a chain of event, a special path of downfall. If you violate one commandment, you will stumble over the next one. You will face the next second one, and you will stumble over it. If you stumble over the number two, you face number three, and you stumble on it too. I'll show you. If you stumble over idolatry, number one, you don't believe in God, then there is no point even discuss anything to you because you violate all the rest. But most people, in our society, when they don't believe in God, what do they do next? Very rampant. Adultery. Because nothing will stop them from having relationship with a best friend wife. Why not? And if you do adultery, what will stop the spouse to run after you with a knife or gun to commit bloodshed? And if you stole his wife, why not steal his property? Very common path. And if you do all that, won't you try to hide, to cover everything, and with lies and injustice? And if you live in such a society that allow all that, you will curse your mother, your father, and God. So here we came down from idolatry to adultery to bloodshed to stealing the theft, injustice, civil injustice, and then blasphemy. So we slid down all the six commandments. One brought the other. It permeates not just Genesis, it permeates the literature. There are many movies. If you follow the line of the stories in many movies, you will see this pattern repeated. Even in the Bible, take David and Bathsheba. David here is in the prime time of his life. He's successful, he's a big king, he won all the wars, he worshipped himself, kind of idolatry. He goes on the balcony and he sees a beautiful woman washing next door. She's married, he doesn't care. He takes her and have sexual relationship with her. She impregnates her. Committed from idolatry, committing adultery, as we just said. That's often the next step. Wow, what should he do now with the husband? So he ordered Uriah to be placed in the front line and they have war with the enemy, and Uriah is killed. David committing bloodshed, number 3. And to cover all that, to cover here she's impregnated, to make everything look like as if she's impregnated from him, kosher, in a kosher way, he marries her. That's called injustice, cover, lies. And if he does it in front of, if this will be known to people, it will be a blasphemy. Because if the king of Israel, the poet of the psalm, has committed such a chain of crime, that's a blasphemy to God. So Prophet Nathan comes and accuses him, especially for injustice. David take a hold on himself, repent. The child is born dead, and the story ended up here in a good term with God because he repented. Yet, it kept a big blemish on David. But the point I brought it, the reason I brought it, because you see how David stumbled from one commandment to the next, and exactly along the line of the commandment of Noah. From idolatry to adultery, to bloodshed, to theft, stealing his wife, and to injustice, number 6, and blasphemy. Blasphemy because we all remember it. Although the Talmud tried to defend him, and he was forgiven, yet it's a kind of blasphemy. So here, so that's a psychological inner build-up of us that lead us to fall down along the line of the commandment. So again, I'm showing you how these primordial laws are built up. Also, they dictate our psyche, or our psyche dictates them. So the order is important. Although in the literature there are many orders, but you understand now why I selected this order of the commandment, because it represents so much of the book of Genesis. So far, in this class, We discussed the origin of the seventh commandment. We saw how it evolved from 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 and 10. We discussed the reason why Noahide are obligated by 7 and Israel 613. And we decided that don't be fooled by the disparity of the numbers, because under the 7, there are many, many subtitles that take years to learn. The 7 commandments of God, they are huge. So don't be fooled by the small number. Whereas also don't be fooled by the 613, because many of them branch out from the original 6 of Adam. All the law between man and man are traced to those 6. And the rest of them are related to Israel as a kingdom of priests, regarding the ritual, the holy temple, and so on. And certainly, Noahide have no business in doing that, but they need to know them. They can draw a conclusion from them. That's fine. Learning Torah is, everybody can learn Torah. But as far as committing yourself as a law, you follow Moses, who said, oh, I'm telling you, Noah, children of Noah, you should abide by your father Noah's laws, because you want to prevent the flood from coming, and you follow the rainbow covenant, the first covenant ever that was signed between man and God. And this covenant is still effective today. If you breach the covenant of the seventh commandment, we are guilty. So no wonder that Moses is so keen about talking about Noah. Next class, we start talking about the commandment themselves, each one by itself. We'll see where it comes from. We learn what did they mean, and so on. Until then, nice to having you here with me, and be well.